think we're streaming, are we? Oh, we are now live. Perfect. Are we good to go, Steve?
I think it's good. It always starts earlier. Yeah.
We are ready to go.
All right, you want to start with CRC or IDA?
Let's start with IDA.
All righty. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the Troy IDA meeting. Today is August 19th. Today is August 19th, 2022. Calling the Troy IDA meeting. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from July 15th, 2022. We got a motion to approve.
Oh.
Sorry, who was that?
Moved by Sue. Sue Steele.
Sue? Okay. Do you have a second? Or do we already have a motion? Mike? Albert, all in favor?
Hi.
Great. Sorry, for some reason it's like a lag. But anyway, moving on to second item. Steve?
Extensions to the record, Jim Gully and Stephanie Fitch, who weren't present at the last meeting. Can you guys hear us? Josh, can you hear us? Raise your hand. You don't. Okay.
Sorry, Steve, say that again.
Okay. Well, nothing. I was just making sure you guys were still with us. We had an unstable internet connection, and before that, I was just mentioning that Jim Gully and Stephanie Fitch were abstaining from the minutes because they weren't here. So now,
Gotcha.
Item 2.
All righty. Steve, you want to talk about item number 2, the district geothermal survey?
Yeah. Okay. So the city, along with the local development corporation, has been looking at creating a district geothermal energy system in the area of Monument Square, around based in Riverfront Park, Broadway, and 3rd/River Street there, making a loop. I have sent you a memo on what the district geothermal is. Basically, it's a carbon neutral energy system that takes heat from the buildings and pumps it into the ground in the summer, and in the winter it takes the heat out of the ground and pumps it back into the building. And it's very efficient. The only real major cost with it, obviously outside of installation, is our electric pumps to pump the system. There are a number of buildings that already have can adopt this once we've installed it. And we are working with Siemens and Clough Harbors as well to get energy off-takers for this. We have a potential NYSERDA grant for this for a significant amount of money. And now with the energy bill that just got passed last week, or was it this week? I don't even remember. Last week. There is a potential for a 30% tax credit, which is eligible for nonprofits as well as municipalities. It wouldn't be a credit, it would actually be a direct pay. So if this is a $9 million system with a $4 million grant and a $3 million direct pay, the cost of this system is only $2 million. So it's pretty much a no-brainer. We just have to get the rest of the way there, and this is a potential revenue source for the city or the local development corporation. Once we figure out if the city can own it or if it has to be the local development corporation, we have approval to put the wells in Riverfront Park from the state. Obviously, the city, there's still a lot of negotiations with the city on everything here. To move forward with this grant that we're working on, we need to hire someone to do a survey, and it's just not just a site survey, it's also utility surveys to find out where the Verizon vaults are, where the city's systems are, where National Grid's gas lines, to make sure that we have room within the streets where we can locate the system. And so we want to get that moving forward now. And we received a proposal from formerly Chazen, now Labella, to do that work for us. And at a cost, I don't have that one, it's under $30,000. Sorry, I look at my my resolution. The reason we are using Chazen Labella is, first off, they're pre-approved by the city as a contractor to do this work. That's already been kind of put through the request for qualifications process. And also because they are working with the city on redesign of Riverfront Park and working on Monument Square as well. So they're best positioned with the plans for the future. So it's not just existing utilities, it's where we're going to put other things in there in the future. So it's important to get this project moving forward now, so that we can get this grant figured out and move forward with it. 200 and, no, that's the other one. It's 20, the one before that. I'm sorry, I should have that. It's in my minutes too.
What's the number?
Yeah.
30,600.
Okay, it's 30,600. So, I'd like to at least get authority to move forward with that. There's an agreement in there that's been pre-approved by Corp Council, so we can get this project moving fairly quickly.
Eric.
Yes, Jim.
So Steve, I noticed that with the $4 million grant, there's also funding in there for a study for a second loop. Was there any money originally for the study to do what we need to do now, is put this process together? Was there any funding for that?
There was.
I thought we originally got money for that.
There was actually originally a $100,000 grant
Yeah.
to do the feasibility study, which actually went directly to CHA and Siemens to do the work. So it didn't go through the city's process.
Yeah.
Since they were partners with us, they actually did all the study that got us to this next $4 million
And this
grant.
$30,000 we're doing is for what study now?
This is for a survey, the utility survey, basically. It's to find actually where everything is in the ground. Anything I gotta add to that?
It's the basis of the design. So you got the feasibility study is the A, the design would be B, and then C
Yeah.
would be implementation. We went from A to C
Okay.
with the grant because they basically did most of the design work, but they need to lay it over a base.
So
And that study will be the actual sort of measurement that you're going against.
will this also look at how many buildings will be able to utilize this service along River Street in the different areas?
We're already
Or do we
doing that,
know
yeah. We're already doing that, but now they'll have the underground utility mapping to be able to
Yeah.
say this works, this won't work. Because some of the streets are gonna be chock full of stuff.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to figure out how to get around that stuff.
I noticed that Steve mentioned on a 30% tax credit that it was municipalities and nonprofit organizations. What about for-profit businesses that might buy into this process? Do they get any
Yeah,
of that tax, will they get that 30% tax
there's a
break
ton of
also?
tax credits. It's gonna be, I think it's for the ownership of a district system talking about, but there are other tax credits in the bill that we don't understand yet because it's just, we're still going through it.
Yeah, I was just thinking that maybe if there's something there to incentivize these businesses to say, yeah, I'll buy in because I'm getting this break. It
There will be.
might
Might
really
be.
energize them to get,
Yep.
if we're gonna do, geotherm is the way of the future. We gotta really make sure that we do the right process here, but
Right.
we wanna make it successful so that this show can be carried on throughout the city as we move forward, which is a long time from now, but,
Yeah,
I
they'll
mean,
be.
I think this
they'll
one is the
be-
most important, making a success out of this process.
Absolutely. There'll definitely be, both federal and state tax, different types of credits programs for off-takers, whether or not you're private or public.
Super, thank you.
And as Dylan mentioned, we are ahead of everybody else in the state on this. I mean, they are implemented and working. Skidmore College has a district system, a little different because they've only got one off-taker, but it's many buildings.
Yeah.
So these do work. They will work here, and this really get Troy on the map, the first municipal-owned new district geothermal.
That should get us on the map for a couple of the different.
I got a question. How's this a revenue source?
The revenue source would be when the system is operating. So instead of a building buying National Grid gas to heat their furnaces, boilers, they're gonna be buying from us based on a square footage price. We're still working on that piece, but so they would be paying to use the system. Monthly utility fee, that should be cheaper than what they're paying already, plus there's less maintenance because they don't have to worry about the water what do you call it, the cooling towers and Legionnaire's disease and chemicals to maintain them. They're basically just taking a liquid and pumping it through their heat exchanger and heating their building or cooling their building.
Josh has a question.
Josh, you got a question?
Yeah, Steve, can you just explain the involvement from Siemens on this, please?
So Siemens actually started the project and did a lot of the work. They have an agreement with the city, an energy performance contract. So that was initially how they got involved, was trying to find savings for the city, and that got us to this level of work. I think at this point now, it's gonna be the local development corporation that probably needs to modify that LPC with them moving forward.
So when that, in that energy performance contract, did they have guaranteed savings that you basically pay for this project?
Well, no, it's not really.
This isn't an energy performance contract project. This really came about, there's going to be an urban arrangement. Right now, we're not going to the contract. We're actually going directly with Labella. So they're looking at potentially being the contractor who's going to help us build either through a D-boom model at some point, or just through a typical sort of design build model. But as of right now, this contract is directly with the engineering office.
So this would be outside that other energy performance contract.
Yeah, the energy performance contract really isn't the right vehicle here.
Yeah, that was kind of their foot in the door. They were working with the city. That's how we started
Got it.
working with them. But yeah, it's really
Okay, so this is a totally separate contract with all these players. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Sure.
Yes, sorry, is that Jim? Yes.
So based on that, since Siemens were able to put up a performance guarantee process, will there be something like that instituted in this program? So we have some sort of, because anybody can tell us we're gonna do so much, but
Right.
will there be something in there that'll set the bar for them and create a level of performance there for us?
It'll most likely be through the LDC, because if the LDC is the owner, you're going to get that sort of flat fee. So the great thing about this, right, is that, like, natural gas is going way up these days. It's going to be really expensive. It's really expensive. So we're going to charge a flat fee based on square footage. So it could be 60 cents per square foot or whatever amount we say. And that's going to be in a contract that's going to last a certain number of years. It should last potentially, because there's no additional sort of work that has to get done to add on to it. So that's the benefit of it. Your rate is your rate, and hopefully we don't have to change it too much.
I think the only can drive it up is repairs and modifications, right?
I mean, like, how much is this wrong? Like, you're not paying the earth to give you the heating, so,
Well, the pumps and stuff are expensive. The pump goes down, we have to, so I mean,
yeah.
hopefully there's something you guys think about there to back up in case we have any type of mechanical or physical issues that,
Well, and that'll be included in the fee.
Right.
There's-
so you'll have that bump there, okay.
And you'll, by investing in the utility, we're investing it back in the community as opposed to national grid's pocket, which is the good thing.
Great thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my second question. How does this benefit lower income communities? I'm looking at the social and economic benefits. This looks like, 'cause there's a lot of,
Well, I think
this benefits rich people.
Well, it's going to
Own
be,
the buildings
hopefully,
down
we're
there.
trying to build it citywide, and the problem with other communities is that you've got the biggest buildings here. It's really hard to hook up the individual houses at a time, so we have to start with a system that's going to be designed to hook up to the largest buildings we have in the city. Because for the first system, we have to pay for out of our own pocket, basically, to start, right, with grants and other things, since we have that lined up. But once you have a system that exists already, you can use the income from those different people that are paying into it to leverage for future systems. You can expand the system basically throughout the entire city, and then start hooking up into smaller buildings. But we couldn't do it one house at a time at this point. Right now, it would be way too expensive for us.
And the next logical phase, which we have, the second phase, is down by Taylor Apartments. So while Taylor 1 won't be tapping into it, although they could in the future, Taylor 2 and Taylor 3, those sites there, as they get redeveloped, will be able to use Site 2. So this kind of delays the groundwork for it. No, this one doesn't specifically benefit low-to-mod, although Monument Square Apartments may want to tap into it because they have some balancing issues with their system. So it could benefit them.
Who pays for when somebody wants to buy into it?
Well, I think it would be probably our cost to get the line to them, but it would be their cost to upgrade their buildings, and they get tax credits. They would be eligible for the 30% tax credit for any investment to do that. In Monument Square's case, they've already got the system. It'd be more an interface. There's to make them part of the whole network.
So, do you know, or does the city know exactly which buildings can and can't?
We do.
Okay.
We do know which ones can and can't. We are trying to get this done and approved so that we can get this done quick enough so that when the Arts Center does their upgrades, they can tap into it. When the movie theater gets their upgrades, they need a whole new system. We get that into there. Monument Square, so that we're trying to get this out ahead of all these. But we know which ones are already ready to be, like we call plug and play, that they can just use it. And a lot of the older buildings, like the Cannon building, is gonna have radiator systems. They're not a plug and play. They're hard to do, because you all new ductwork. You can't use the pipes that are transferring the fluids to the radiators. Air system, basically.
Who owns the building that has geothermal down now?
Community builders.
Oh,
That's
have
the
you talked to
Monument
them
Square
about the
Apartments.
system? Yeah.
They have it, and Rosenblum has two of them. So the News and the Vecina building, those have self-contained geothermal energy. Rosenblum loves them and looks to do them in all of their buildings.
Anyone else have any questions for Steve?
No.
Or for Dylan, anybody? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve moving forward with hiring Chazen, now known as Labella, as the surveyor in the amount of $30,600?
Actually, we are creating the resolution creates a geothermal district project and authorizes the hiring of Labella.
So moved.
Sue?
Second, the other stuff, Sue's.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, item 3, the Sperry Building Engineering Study. So I'm just gonna set the little background on this, and then let Dylan do a presentation on it. The Sperry Building, as everybody, or not everybody necessarily knows, is owned by the city. It is down kitty corner from the jail. If you ever driven by it or walked through it, as Sue and Jim have, it's just falling down, and it is a mess. The city has authorized the transfer of it to the local development corporation for redevelopment. The big issue with the building is demolition is so costly because there's asbestos on the roof. And you can't, the building is so old, if you try and remove the asbestos, the building falls down, so you have to demolish the building and they take it all as hot material. So it's a very expensive, millions of dollars worth of demolition costs here. There is a Restore New York grant from New York State meant to deal with specific projects just like this right now. That's up to $3 million for municipalities. It's due on October 11th. There's also another round right after that. So if for some reason we're unable to get this in for that one, there will be another round right behind it. But we have 2 potential users for this site to create industrial space there. So there's a lot of things that need to get done for this project, not only for the grant application, but for future redevelopment of this site. So that's why we have a proposal to create a Sperry building project, and also to authorize the spending of the hiring of another pre-approved vendor of the city's CHA to do the utility, to do a lot of work, which I'm going to let Dylan explain now.
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna start from the, it's just really short, I promise. I can sometimes get a little carried away, so real quick, perfect. Oh, right.
Playtex.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually originally from the steel, from the foundry, so it's one of the original buildings. It's really old, and that's the issues, right?
Have we done any ground examination yet?
Yeah,
Depth
CHA,
examination?
one of the reasons we want to work with CHA, and we can work with CHA, is because they did the original study that was funded by the EPA about 13 years ago, 14. So just some basics on Sperry Warehouse. You can see it's a big parcel right here that's next to the road that leads off the jails up here, and then King Jules is down here. And the city also owns the site that's in between the two and the river. So it was built in the 1800s. It was used as a foundry. It's got a lot of, potentially has some contamination in the ground that was originally looked at back in, I think, 2009, I want to say, part of a study that CHA did for an EPA award. And so as a result, we know that there's a lot that has to get done there. One of the problems is that, as Steve already mentioned, there's asbestos on the roof, and the majority of the building's collapsing, except for this little part over here seems to be in better shape. I think we're stabilized at some point. There's a couple other things to work out. For instance, the county IDA owns this parcel over here that the road goes through. You can't see me pointing, sorry. But the L-shaped parcel where the road goes through it is actually owned by the county IDA. And there's a couple of other sort of difficulties there that require site planning and a little bit of site planning in order to figure out. So we have, can you go to the next slide for a second? Yeah. So in order to get this application in for October 11th, there's a lot that has to get done. We need to figure out environmental concerns, meaning we have to drill we have to bore into new holes, and we have to see if anything's moved or seeped anywhere to see if basically the contamination is contained. And then we also need to create just start with boundary and topographical surveys, that kind of thing, and then assess the suitability for future light industrial use. We have 2 industrial users who are not really they're considered industrial users. I can't really say anything about who they are yet, but they'd both be very much in line with our plan for the future of that area of Troy. And they would also generate a lot of tax revenue and jobs for us as well. So in order to get to that point, they need us to be able to move quickly so we can get this thing hopefully built within 2 years. Otherwise, we're going to lose our chance to have somebody that could be bringing, 50 to 100 jobs total to the city. And they've also promised to work with workforce development programs that take people that are locally here in Troy.
Local Troy people.
Exactly. So and we're working with BOCES and a couple others as well. We actually created a new workforce development pipeline. So there's a lot that needs to happen. So the hope here is to get through this because we're at the very beginning of this process, right? And eventually what we'd like to do in 2024 is construct a net zero industrial building if possible, which would be amazing because you don't see too many of those around here, and a lot of people care about that now. And a recent survey that was done through a major industrial market study demonstrated that 82% of respondents consider environmental, social governance elements when making decisions these days. That number before COVID was like 30-something. People are very concerned about what's happening. Yeah. Additionally, industrial real estate right now is at an all-time high. You're seeing industrial real estate just take off. You can't sell it fast enough or build it fast enough, and we don't have enough here in the city. We get calls all day about it. The problem is that most of our industrial land is just vacant and it's polluted, so we need to get through the process of planning it, helping to redevelop our riverfront mostly for mixed income, residential and also for commercial and turning it into a real attraction. And at the same time, we want to be able to take all the industrial users and help consolidate down further south. Next slide, please. The last slide. So this is from the BOA, right? These are the things that we're doing. This is the larger plan. So as you guys know, in 2021, we were awarded an EPA grant for a community-wide assessment. That incorporates that entire sort of all the different colors that are along the riverfront over there. That's also our BOA, the Brownfield Opportunity Area, which is about to be submitted. So this one's about to start. It's going to start very soon, so you can put a check there. Brownfield Opportunity Area is about to be submitted, there's a check there. National Grid, due to the work of Stephen and the LDC, has actually gotten going as well. So that's a check there. And then this is where we're at now, right? In new industrial and R&D developments in the Burton District. That's the area down at the bottom, that's in green. And so we're trying to consolidate industrial uses to that area over there. And that leaves us with now assessed, sort of environmentally assessed and ready to be planned and built land along our entire waterfront, which we hope will happen once the salt pile moves. So that's what we're lining up. Like, this is all part of a larger play that we've been working on for years at this point. So we're trying to get moving. So in order to do that work, in order to design the building, in order to figure out what our remediation plan is going to be, the demo plan, all of that, we need to basically spend the money now to get $3 million back. So we spend 200 and something, we get back $3 million.
Return on your investment.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right?
If we get to $3 million.
Right. But so far, we're very confident, just based on conversations with the SD and others, that this is the right plan for them.
Well, I think that's really a poster child for the EPA to want to clean up, really. That would be a nice start on their side to help us get through this and get that area cleaned up, and they can do a lot for Troy, because really, the commercial and industrial value we can pull out of that area alone will probably bring plus 100 to 200 jobs in the area, and also allow us to create some great revenue out of a dead piece of land that's been dead for many years.
Right. And it's a hazard, quite frankly. It needs to come down. Yep.
Do you know what the bedrock depth is by the river? Is that about 16, 18 feet still?
I'm not sure down there. There's a lot of silt there from the, lining skill.
Yeah, I'm just worried about how deep that, you know, what you guys are gonna find when you start
A
boring
lot of
those
that's
holes.
filled too.
A lot of it's filled because it was actually, originally, before anybody came there, it was all, sort of like a wetland, like flood area. And so they dumped a ton of stuff in there to be able to raise it up, to be able to build the burden ironworks there.
Yeah,
So it's still probably just a mess. And I think what's likely to happen is, well, based on the 2009 study, it's not gonna be that hard. It's just a question of the level of remediation. You're not gonna put a residential building there.
right, so you don't really dig down that far, we can just cap it and put a plate on it.
We have to,
hopefully.
that's what we have to figure out, is what is it gonna be specifically
Yeah,
based on
yeah,
today's
yeah.
conditions?
And that'll be the least expensive to move forward in that category.
Yeah,
All right, cool. Thanks, Tom.
yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate all the hard work.
Oh, thank you guys.
I got a
Dylan?
question. You said you have tenants, interested in it?
Yeah.
Are they willing to wait until all this is completed?
Well, they have their own processes to get through. There's like a lot of licensing stuff that they need to do, both for, so all the different industries that are industrial, like whether or not it's, you know, making rivets or something else, they'll have to go through certain kind of like licensing agreements. And so they're just getting started now in their design with us. It's gonna take them at least 6 months to get the final design. And by that point, we hope we have a remediation plan with them. We can get into either the BCP or the EPA's brownfield cleanup grant sort of system, and then use that money to clean it up and then help them basically build the building, or work with a developer to build the building. So that whole process should take about 2 years, and they're aware of it.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
Dylan, the salt pile, there's nowhere else that can go. Is that because they need rail access, or why are they gonna be moved down to King Fuel site?
It's gonna be very hard to build, that's an area where we're trying to build residential and mixed use.
They don't have to go anywhere, and we want them to go somewhere so we can take advantage of that site. And the King Fuel site has the rail. This would be an enclosed building. It wouldn't be a pile like it is right now.
Right. You could probably, if you own that land, you're gonna make a whole lot more money selling it either to a developer to develop mixed income, mixed use buildings there, or just basically finding a better use for it on that site.
And they come part and parcel with CD Perry, which is marine, which means marine access. And they have it by the salt pile right now, and until they get another location, which could be applied there, they're not gonna locate away from that area.
Right.
Okay, so they do need to be by the river, they do need to have rail access, and other than where they are now, King Fuels is the best location for them? Is that what you're saying?
It is the only location in Troy that
Okay.
we can work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Dylan. Any other questions for Dylan?
Justin, I have a question. It's Josh.
Yeah, Josh.
I know we're trying to work with Clough Harbor, but was there any other budgets put in place or any other idea on how that cost looks? Any rules of thumb? I mean, $236,000 is a lot of money. How do we make sure that it's at least in line with what maybe the city was thinking or another vendor would have provided cost on?
So I'll start and you can fill in afterwards. So we had our engineer, Aaron Vera, review it, and some of the costs were a little high, some of them were fine, but they were realistic costs for what we expect. The $60,000 is one of the ones that I still would like to discuss with Empire State Development as we go down there and do a site visit, because we're looking at, the building, the building inspection and condition assessment. We know the condition. We know the condition is we'd just like to tear it down because it's not possible to save. But SHPO, State Historic Preservation Office, is part of the review. And so we're gonna need to satisfy them as well. It's not a historic district building, it's potentially historic, but they review it, they're part of this process.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'd say is that the benefit of working with DHA, and one of the reasons we feel like we have to basically, is because of all the prior work they've done on the site. They've been on the site for, I think, 2 different studies. They have a lot of the data, and because they have the familiarity and they're still the same people there, we think it's actually gonna end up saving us a little bit of money over the long term because of the fact that somebody else would be starting potentially from scratch. Some of the information they have was not included in their final study because They didn't complete all the information, so I think they can work off of what they already have, and it's brought the cost potentially down below what it would be with somebody else.
When Cliff Harbor did the study back in 2009, was all the information provided to the city of Troy based on that study?
Everything in the final report, we have some draft reports, but at the same time, I think there's a benefit to having Keith and the people that are on that team, especially because they're also potentially going to be working with different groups on like the BOA, for instance. They're also on that plan. There's like a number of the different plans they're already working on down there, and it kind of helps us sort of combine some of the work they're already doing with this work as well.
Okay.
Why the survey and mapping expense?
Because you have to do that as your baseline for a project.
It hasn't been done already, though?
We don't have anything like an Alta survey.
Of any building that the city owns.
Yeah.
Was the survey done in the 2009 study?
Not to that level of detail.
Any other questions or comments for Steve or Dylan? Is that Sue?
Yeah, I don't know, this is probably premature, but just a comment that before, or at some point, I hope Hudson Walk Industrial Gateway will have an opportunity to retrieve anything that they feel they can use going forward. I know there were some rail
We could,
things that,
yeah, we can certainly, we'll work with them to
Because
do
they-
that. I mean, the grant wouldn't be awarded until probably February,
Yeah,
March.
we can talk to them before
But
that.
yeah, we can,
yeah, we talked about doing some educational, stuff that might, because it's an extremely important part of Troy's history. And it's unfortunate the building has gone beyond usage at this point, but there are interesting pieces of it that might be able to, for some educational.
yeah,
Nobody on
and
the
as
board.
you know, the city's already approved, we worked with them to retrieve a piece from the Skolite site, which just happened about a month. So yeah, we'll work with them.
Nobody on the boards ever talked about it. Nobody on the boards ever talked about it.
White site.
Yeah.
The Skolite site, well, the Skolite site's city-owned. This one's city-owned as well,
Yeah.
so.
You're talking about this site here, or the one he was just talking about, right?
I was just saying, we work with them on a different site, not a
Yeah, but the
Skolite
site you're talking
Right.
about, nobody on the boards ever talked about. Either,
That's the Hudson Mohawk.
yeah, yeah.
Well, we walked it with, at that point, Michael Barrett was still, executive director. Walked it with him. I think at that time we talked
He
about
said something.
might be pieces, I mean, even if you could just, I don't want to get into the weeds here, but there were some things that you might be able to pull out and show as an example of the building, how it had been used and how it was important. Right, but it's clearly beyond.
Anything we pull out, we have to spend about 10 grand to get the graffiti off of it. I mean,
Good
it's
stuff,
just crazy.
though.
There's some great artists out there. I just wish they'd learn the canvas they put it on is not always building in front of them.
I know this doesn't pertain to what we're, but I just wanted to be on record as, and we could preserve our history.
Um, Executive director.
Careful walking through that building.
We're hard hat.
I don't, I go running by there all the time without,
All right. Any other further comments or questions?
Nope.
All right, then. So then, do we have a motion to move forward with working with CHA on all the items discussed regarding the surveys, the inspections, site plans, et cetera, all on page 37 of your agenda today, for the proposal amount of $236,980. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Jim, do we have a second?
Second.
Sue? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thanks, Dylan.
You, everybody. Thank you, Bill.
Steve, anything else to add to Executive Director's report?
I do. First, I'd just like to, Dylan acknowledged me for the cleanup of King Fuels. I'd like to acknowledge Andrew Kreshik, who's not here, who really did a lot on that site, including coming up with the idea to separate out the materials, which got our bid down from $1.5 million to $400,000, which we did. So I just want to make sure Andrew Kreshik is recognized as well. Let's see. Posting Kilt Place, which, if you remember, that was, we voted not to do it. That's an affordable housing project just north of the Lindy's building. That will be coming back. You'll have your second bite or non-bite at that one. They're looking to move forward. They've been stalled out because of the location of the salt pile right there. So, and again, they are, as of rate, able to get a pilot from the city through state legislation. So just figured I'd mention that to you. City Station is still promising to move forward soon. Obviously, everybody's had problem with costs, material costs and supply chain issues, but I did get an email from them this week that they're still working. And I believe we should have a new member on the board bringing us back to a full contingent by hopefully next month, if not the following month. So figured I'd just report that. And that's it for Executive Director's report.
Great.
That's the old, EOC building.
It's,
Across the street.
Like-
Some of us remember it as Bumstead.
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with a Bumstead.
For me, it's the EOC building.
Jimmy and Jerry Mackey. They were the sales guys there at Bumstead.
That's my.
There you go.
Anyone got any
Okay.
questions for Steve? All right, moving on to the financials.
Our first report is the statement of financial position. As of July 31st, our total assets are $1,055,273.33, with $917,154.75 in cash. Total liabilities to our fund balance is $1,005,270.33. There are no significant changes in the financial position. Next report, statement of activities. We have a deficit of $4,957.72. There are no significant sources of revenue, and the largest expense are the lease.
Great. Anyone have any questions regarding the financials?
I'd just like to point out, when you always said that it's legal fees, I'm on the phone with Justin all the time. Like he's just charging us. We are on the phone all the time, and talking through projects, getting assistance. Not like that's a ridiculous number, and especially that for that amount this month. I just want to give kudos to Justin.
That's the total amount for the year, though, 6,200.
January to July.
Yeah, well,
Okay. We have a motion to,
You gotta pay him a fee. Wait it, it's good. We're lucky to have him there.
all right, do we have a motion to approve the financials?
make the motion. Albert.
Albert, we have a second?
Second.
Josh, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Anything else to add, Steve, before we adjourn?
Oh, you can make one, Mr. Chair.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Great. Second? All right, all in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Going to jump right into the CRC. All right. Call the order, the Troy CRC meeting. Today is August 19th, 2022. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from July 15th, 2022 board meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Sue, do we have a second? Latasha? Is that Latasha?
Yeah.
Great. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions?
Stephanie?
Yeah, Jim's actually an abstention.
Yeah, I apologize.
Jim and Stephanie, is that who was?
Yes.
Great. All right. Item number 2, Executive Director's Report, Steve.
I will be quick. The loan that we made to the local development corporation had 2 components that we were waiting to pay: the sale of King Fuels and the Alamo. And the sale of King Fuels is delayed. The Alamo has taken a lot longer with the city than I thought. They had to get appraisals on it, which they had to get 2 appraisals, even though those appraisals are going to come in higher probably than what we're selling it for. But they have to take that step anyways. That is underway, so I hope to have that money transferred by, I'm going to guess November. I may request a delay on the repayment of that just because the King Fuels, which is a big chunk, is taking so long, but I'm just warning you on that. I may not. So we'll see what happens with that one. That's it for the Executive Director's Report.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Steve?
No.
All right. Then moving on to item number 3, the financials, please.
Our first report is statement of financial position. As of 7/31, our total assets are $434,307.93. $119,307.93 cash. We have no liabilities, so our fund balance is $434,307.93. There are no significant changes to the statement of financial. Next report is the statement of activity. We have a deficit of $7,000.73. There are no significant sources of revenue, and the largest expense is the capital planning for the First Avenue reconstruction.
I'll note on that is, we've got the numbers in on that. I'm not sure that will happen this year. I think that they might end up doing the curb cuts and the corners, not the curb cuts, the ADA ramps on a lot of the intersections. But the paving may happen this year, may happen next year. But it's a great project. The design came in really nice. Adds a mile of riverfront trail. So thank you for funding that.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions regarding the financials? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the financials?
So move.
Sue, second.
I'll second.
Latasha, all in favor?
Aye.
Was it not Latasha?
Oh, was it?
I'm sorry.
It was Stephanie.
It was Stephanie, my apologies.
Cheryl was,
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Anything else to add, Steve, before we adjourn?
Nothing. Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful Friday.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.